1, go.
Good morning, gardeners. Welcome back to Magnolia Community Garden. We, with the Charleston Conservancy, are here to continue our beginning gardener education online class. I'm here with Leslie Ray, and Megan Mills is behind the camera, knocking it out. So we're going to talk about container gardening and microgreens today. So here we go. And as you can hear, our city parks department is still taking care of our gardens and making sure everything looks beautiful. And there's our gardener, as is our staff. So we want to continue to connect you to our parks, but we just have to do it virtually right now. But everything's going very well. So, container gardening, it does not have to be beautiful, especially now, because no one can come over and see your garden. So if you can find a reusable plastic container, absolutely fine. If you have lovely terracotta or glazed pots, that's awesome too. We're going to talk about
Louder.
vegetable gardening. So what we use is a natural organic Happy Frog potting soil. It has humic acid, mycorrhizae, and fat guano and earthworm casting, so it's a very healthy, very nutritious soil for your container gardens. But it's a little bit dry to start off with, so what you want to do before you start planting is just saturate it a little bit, and then you're going to just mix that in until it kind of sticks together a little bit in your hand, but it's not soaking wet, right? So here we go, we're just gonna mix this in.
And if anyone's interested in where we get Happy Frog, and they have a couple other products that are natural, what's that?
The cocoa mocha?
Yeah. We get this from Possums on DuPont Road, and I think they have a couple different locations, but I'm sure that Hyams and other garden centers in town have some great potting mixes that you can use for container gardening. So, and I know a lot of them have pre-order and pay ahead, so you can just kind of drive up and grab it and go. So you don't have to go into a store.
So what we're gonna do today is teach you a little bit about vegetable growing, because some of you do not have yards, and we know that maybe you have a little balcony, hopefully it's very sunny, or a deck. So what I have here is a cherry tomato, and you can see how tall it is already. It's a little bit stressed out. It's already trying to set fruit, but it's too young. You can't do that yet. So I'm going to gently pick that off and take off some of these lower leaves, because if you probably can't see this, but if you feel the stem of a tomato plant, you can feel little bumps, and those are root nodules. So this is one of few plants that you can actually bury the stem to make it stronger. So we gently squeeze. I've already watered thoroughly. You want to make sure your plants are watered. It is not root bound. You can see it's not spinning its roots, but I'm still going to gently massage, because we want those roots to spread out. We don't want them to spin. So I'm going to dig a deep hole, and I'm going to bury this tomato. I'm not pressing down, I'm just setting it in there and gently spreading the soil around it. I'm going to add more soil because I really want good air circulation, and I want a really nice, strong, sturdy plant. So as this tomato is growing, it's going to start to flower. For the next 2 weeks, I would pinch those flowers off and just let it really develop before it starts trying to set fruit, because it takes a lot of work for tomatoes to produce. In addition, you could make it pretty and introduce pollinators to your little porch or garden by adding some flowers. I don't want to put too many things in with a tomato, because they really need a lot of food. They work so hard to produce for us, so I don't want to compete with them too much. However, we have some edible flowers here. This is calendula. And again, see how its roots, it's kind of getting root bound? We're just going to gently break that up. Gently, gently, gently. So what you can do is you can have several pots together. It looks really nice to have things in threes. So here's a few little parsley in here and plant it. And in this pot, I could do one basil and maybe a pepper and a flower. So if we weren't growing tomatoes in this pot, you could put at least 5 plants in here and let them grow, even if it's just flowers. They do beautifully. It's really nice to add texture as well as flowers. But we have, the peppers don't get as big as the tomatoes, so we can put this in a smaller pot. I would not grow tomatoes or any summer vegetables. This get so big. I would not grow them in anything smaller than a 14-inch pot, because otherwise they're going to get rebound and we'll be watering the entire summer like crazy.
All right, thanks, Meg. One thing that I was going to talk about as well is that Meg mentioned that tomatoes need a lot of food. They need a lot of nutrients to grow and produce fruit. So in a container, you actually can, thank you for mowing. You actually can fertilize. And one thing that we would recommend is a compost tea. And you can get compost and you're going to water it down. You'll have to look it up on the internet. We're not going to go into compost tea right now. But.
We just got a question about cages or support for the tomato plant.
Yes, you can absolutely do a tomato cage. They're very inexpensive. We probably have some here. Or just get some bamboo, maybe from a neighbor, and they can throw it over the fence to you. Or any kind of staking and twine. You just want to support this tomato plant. There's also an organic product called tomato tone. So peppers and tomatoes need a lot of calcium, otherwise they get blossom end rot. So tomato tone is very inexpensive. It's $7.95 at a garden center, and you could do a tablespoon per inch of plant. And you want to just sprinkle it around the root ball. You never want to put fertilizer up onto the plant. It wants to go into the soil, and then just water it in like every 2 weeks.
What other plants need support? Just tomatoes?
Peas,
Cucumbers.
beans, some kind of pole beans, zucchini if you want to. You can trellis anything, all the vining plants. It's just a little bit of work.
Good.
Yeah, if you have an apartment or a patio that has some sort of already built-in trellising, you can work with that to trellis up little small melons, your cucumbers. So you can do a lot on a patio. When I lived in an apartment, I grew a lot of stuff on a patio. My roommates weren't always super happy until the fruit came in, but because it took up a lot of space. But we got to grow our own food. So Meg talked about small space container gardening. So if you have a small patio, but you're still growing outside. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do indoors if you don't have any outdoor space, whether it's a patio or not. So one thing I like to do with my kids, and this keeps them busy for a few seconds a day, which is important right now, but we have this little acrylic tray, and we put some soil in it. Let me use my hands instead of a little trowel. So we're going to put some soil in this. And the reason we like to grow microgreens is, first of all, we have something green in our kitchen or dining room. And we grow this. Our dining room is actually on the north facing side of the house, which isn't ideal. If you're growing indoors, you'd like to be on your east or south side to get the best sun. But this is super simple. You're going to put a little bit of potting mix in this. You do not have to have anything nutrients, so you could use a germinating mix. So we use this Sungrow. Let me grab it real quick. This is a germinating mix, and you probably won't need a bag this big unless you plan on doing a lot of stuff. But these are going to be in the soil just for about 14 to 21 days. So they don't need a lot of nutrients to grow. So we're going to put a little bit of soil in here, and then I have Swiss chard, bright lights, and we like this because it's colorful and fun. And then I also have dill microgreens. And we got these from Johnny's. You can order this online, and they'll ship it to your home. But I'm doing dill because peas are kind of coming out, and I like dill and peas together in recipes. So we're going to just sprinkle these very heavily. And if you have 3 containers like this, 3 little trays, you could keep microgreens going week after week. So once you harvest one, well, start growing them, you can harvest one in about, depends on the varietal, but you're looking at 14 days. Arugula is ready really quickly because it germinates in like 2 days. But this dill should probably be ready in 2 to 3 weeks. So we're putting it in very heavily, and then we're gonna just barely cover it with a little bit of soil. And then I have this little mister, and this is where if you have kiddos or you're bored and you just wanna sit around and mist something, takes a second to do. So you could also just use your faucet sprayer in your kitchen. So we're just gonna do this and keep the soil moist throughout the day. So you could probably water it 2 or 3 times a day. You can do it as much as you want. You've got plenty of time, don't you? So we're gonna do that, and these we'll start seeing germination probably Sundays or so. I don't know, my sprayer's not, it's stream, there we go. I like that mist.
That's the stuff.
As opposed to the spray, so yeah. So that is easy, and then this is gonna, as soon as these germinate, and we're gonna wait for the cotyledon leaves to come out, and you can wait for the true leaves. So one of the things I like about microgreens is they are packed full of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and research has shown that the same quantity of microgreens compared to mature greens provides 40% more nutrients. So that's pretty incredible, and you can throw a little bit on a salad or in a smoothie, or just snack on it. My kids like to snack on the microgreens. So that is your microgreens. You can grow that in a window, and like I said, we've had success in a north-facing window, but if you have an east or south-facing window, you'll have even more success with it. So I forgot, can I borrow your little pot?
Of course you can.
So a couple other things. I don't recommend growing an entire garden in your house unless you have a grow light set up or something like that. But if you have an incredible south-facing window, you could grow fruiting plants and stuff. But you've got to be very diligent to do that, which maybe a lot of people are right now.
Maybe they are actually, yeah.
So, you know, I know people have grown tomatoes in their houses and stuff, but again, you've got to really tend it. So I'm putting some soil in this little pot, and this is going to go in the kitchen window. And we're going to put some lettuces in there. Lettuce is not a fruiting vegetable, so they don't need quite and we didn't water these, but we should have. So they don't need quite as much sunlight and attention. So I'm going to put 2 little lettuce plants in here, and as we want to have salads, these will get a little bit bigger, and we'll just pinch off the outer leaves. We also have some dill, and where dill outside, so notice how much I'm packing in here, and Meg was correct that you don't want to pack too much, but I do have some worm castings, and I'm going to make a compost tea out of those worm castings, and I'll just continue to feed this so that they're not fighting for nutrients in this small little container. So you can grow herbs and lettuces pretty easily. What are some other things? Other greens, your Swiss chard.
Yeah, things that don't grow too big and require so much sunlight. Like the summer vegetables, it's a little tricky because they need so much. But I think it's a little bit easier with the leafy greens, like Leslie said, things that stay smaller and that you can harvest continually from, so they constantly have room.
But your herbs are a wonderful thing to add to any of your recipes. They're very easy to grow for the most part. So get some basil plants, and dill, we normally, we'd plant it, but if we get warm weather, it will bolt and go to seed. But in your house with moderate temperatures, should be okay for a little while. As well as cilantro. We've got cilantro here as well that we might put in a little pot. So you can do a lot with container gardening. Like I said, if you're trying to grow tomatoes and stuff, try to have a south-facing window that's getting bright light. and you'll have to have misters and kind of keep up with the humidity in your house. So it's a little trickier to grow some of your fruiting vegetables, but definitely go ahead with some greens or lettuces and your herbs. And the microgreens are super easy to do indoors. And then if you have a porch or small space, balcony,
Front
take
stoop.
Meg's hints. And if you have questions, let us know on Instagram, or you can always email us at gardens@charlestonparksconservancy.org. And we'll see you next Friday with our next Beginner's Guide to Gardening.